Hello, Fargo CTE educators. As we plan forward for our budgeting for the school year, I would like to walk through a few quick steps to help get you started if you're new to the system, and just to provide some updates on some of the questions that might get answered along the way. So please go to the employee portal and log in. And when you go to the website, you should have access to the CTE department link. On this page is where we have some ongoing just spotlight announcements. And on the left-hand side is the requisition process that has been used for many years to keep track of the CTE purchases. If you click on the requisition area, it will take you into our beginning process to add a requisition. But before we begin that, I would like to point out to you the actual budget cycle that we go through each year as we start the upcoming school year. If you go to the links, you'll notice the CTE budget cycle and fiscal cycle document. Inside, you will see the 24-25 as an example for the year. And right now, we're starting the budget process. The budget process changes from year to year, but it just depends on how they want to work forward with planning. So to walk through this, we generally begin our budgeting cycle in January. It's a little earlier this year, and then we move through to February, and it allows me to give you a window of opportunity to submit your requisitions for the year. And again, these are estimates. During the time of I'll have about a week to compile this information to see how we could play this out with our Perkins funding and also our general fund requests. By March, we'll be looking at any kind of funding that will come from the Department of Career and Technical Education to see what kind of draft funding we might have for the upcoming school year. And then again, we submit reports to the state. As we move through the year, we ask people to finish up their advisory committee work and make sure they submit those 2 meeting fall and spring minutes. And then we close out our books by the end of May and June. Moving forward, the fiscal year actually begins in July, and at times we aren't able to spend items until the budget is approved, which can be into August, depending on what kind of funding cycle the business office is working through. IDET will be the CTE point of contact, Kelly Harold, curriculum materials and software, and then Kirsten and Jody will be in technology. Ryan will be working with Kelly when it comes to curriculum materials and software purchases, and Denise will be working with equipment and any kind of major budgeting discussions and approval, and IDET will help with the processing of the requisitions. Our hope is to have information out to everyone in August regarding what your actual supply budget is for the year, and we will communicate that to you. Then our flow through is, again, the State Department starts to approve any kind of revised budget for Perkins, with finalizing that information in October so we can actually purchase some of our specialized equipment. As you're thinking about your requisitions, here are some things that I'm going to ask you to think about in the categories. Business and college visits that you may be considering traveling to, whether that is to MSUM for a graphics conference, or if you were planning to travel to UND. You might also have some visits to a Bobcat or John Deere that might require busing. So those are examples of business and college visits. Conferences, please submit if you are planning to attend the Professional Development Conference in August in Bismarck. Also, if you have any kind of specific training that you may be aware of or specialized conferences. Not all specialized conferences may be approved, but it's just good to know in case we have some additional funds. Also, the house project is a separate expense. Please do not worry about submitting anything related to the house projects. Curriculum, please enter that for your individual school. I know over the years some departments have submitted for their colleagues on behalf of like business. But at this point, we're going to ask you to submit the request for each of your schools to make sure we don't miss anything. Also, be working with Ryan on the curriculum approval process before those are submitted. Equipment, this would be anything that is technology based that's over $750, or there are some devices that might be specialized equipment that might be under $750 that has sustainable life to them. So it might be your best guess to enter it under equipment, and I can move it to supplies if needed. Service and repair, if there's anything specific that you're aware of for your program. Some of the maintenance of fax equipment might need to be in here, any kind of sharpening of knives, those type of service repairs. Finally, supplies. You do not have to worry about entering the overall budget supplies unless you have some specific supplies that you're looking for. For example, if I'm looking at the technology and engineering or the woods department, I would calculate a supply account for you. But if you have some bigger items that you think you need for supplies, please enter those in and I will add that to the overall supply budget. So that's an example of the flow through and the fiscal process. Now, getting back to how you would enter a requisition. Some of you have done this already, but please click on the requisition for 24-25. And what this allows is for you to go in and enter any of the requests that you are thinking you would need for the 24-25 school year. You would click on the new, go through and add in your department. I'm going to enter something for the career advisors, and I will go ahead and enter this as a supply. And I'm also going to add this specific school as South High School for now. The vendor might be Amazon, and I will not need the address. If there's a new vendor, please make sure that you connect with IDET on any new vendors. Since this I'm going to enter in as just a generic supply, I'm going to enter in supplies for career activities. And I'm going to enter a quantity of 1, and I'm going to estimate a cost of $50 for each quarter. So the total unit would be $50, and the unit cost would be $50. And then it will calculate for the first quarter. If I want $50 for each quarter, I would enter 4 quarters and I would get my total of $200. There isn't anything specific related to this, so I'm going to not need any hauling order, electrical, or service support. If I had a note that was specific that I wanted to share, I would place in here if a lower price is available, through another vendor, please purchase. Now, I think I would save this, and this would allow me, if I needed to add to it later, to come back in and open it up and then continue to add. And then I could save it again, or at this time I could submit for approval. If you're not sure if you are finished, do not submit, because once you submit, it actually locks you out. You're only in view mode until we work with it on the backside for approval and enter any budget codes. So that's how you would get started with entering any of your requests for the 24-25 school year. Please contact Denise or IDET if you have additional questions.